before I get right into this, so this is my new room, and look, it's snowing. Look how beautiful that is. I'm looking out my window, and we're in the Catskills in the mountains, and we moved here January 28th of 2000 of this year, 2019, and it snowed almost every day. So it's going to be a long winter. Okay, let me get right into what I want to talk about. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. I'm your host, Michael Tabor. So getting right into this, I'm listening now to Pete Dominic on Joe Rogan. So I never heard of Pete Dominic. He had a radio show on Sirius XM for 12 years. So that's 2007. He just got fired, and now he's starting his own podcast. And I'm only like a half hour in. Seems like a good guy. So it seems like everybody has a podcast now, right? So I'm a non-celebrity and I'm trying to do something here. I'm starting on YouTube. I really want to be, YouTube is my thing, but I've thought about podcasting, but it's like you go on Google and you go, how many videos are streamed every day? It's like millions. I don't know what the exact number is, but it's a lot. And so streaming videos, and everyone has a podcast. I mean, everyone, like minor celebrities, like people, I guess, like me. So how am I going to stand out, right? So I actually did a video yesterday on what Tabor Talk is all about. So I talked to my wife about this. I go, what, is this an exercise in futility? By the way, I'm doing this because I'm semi-retired and I just love doing this. And it's quite therapeutic. I love talking about different issues and stuff. I used to just talk to my wife and my friends. Now I just hit record and I could share it with other people. So I was thinking about like what makes me, if anything's going to happen with this, and I don't really care, quite frankly, but why do I stand out? And I'd have to say, number one is I'm a homebody. I mean, I am a nerd sort of guy. I read and listen to podcasts like I've been doing my whole life. I mean, my wife said I've never met anyone who's read more books, right? And that's true. I'm just a bookworm. I've read them all. Unlike Brian Callen. I'm just kidding. I did a thing on Brian Callen. He's always talking about all the books he's read. I'm like, you're like a popular guy. When do you have time to read? I have no life. That's what I do. I spend hours and hours every day reading. You're like this stand-up comedian, actor. You have your podcast. Like, how could you possibly read all those books? So, okay. So there's that. I'm super well read. I've read 1 million books. Like, I counted them once. It was something like close to 10,000 books. Something insane. Maybe not that. I forget what the number was. But it was shockingly high. And I'm not an especially fast reader. It's just that I read all the time and I read everything. So there's that. And then when you talk about podcasts, I have 6 now. I used to have a solid 4 for like 6, 7, 8 years, like religiously every day, every podcast from beginning to end. And I actually jotted this down so I wouldn't forget. So it's Joe Rogan. I've been there since the beginning. I've listened to every single episode, almost. Not quite. Some of the MMA stuff, but since December 24, 2009. And how many does Joe have? Over 1,300 podcasts. I've listened to every single episode. All right. Sam Harris. Sam has like 180 now logged in from 6 years ago. I've listened to every single Sam Harris podcast. Every minute of every episode. Sean Carroll, same thing. Sean Carroll started his podcast last year. He's a year and change. Listen to every single one of his podcasts. Sean Carroll's the theoretical physicist. He's amazing. Very Bad Wizards. Tamler Summers and David Pizarro, philosopher and a psychologist. They have about 160 podcasts since 2014. I've listened to every minute of every podcast from the Very Bad Wizards. Tim Ferriss, I'm catching up. I've listened to about 120 of his 350. I just started listening to Tim about 5 minutes ago. I've heard so much about him. I said, listen, I got 4, and how much time does one have? But Tim is awesome. And then Eric Weinstein started a podcast in August, and he has like 11 in the bank, and I've listened to them all. Well, I'm actually listening to Julie Landau now, and then Ezra Klein is awesome, and I just kind of, I'm getting into him. So there's the thing. I have all these inputs Like nobody, even Pete Dominic says, I listen to your show, Joe. I mean, I don't listen religiously. Unlike me, I do. I listen to every minute of every podcast. And I think it's because, listen, they don't have time. I mean, this Pete Dominic had a radio show, 3 hours every day live, and he had to drive into the city. He's got a family and kids. I have no life. I have no life. I'm dealing with a chronic illness, so I can't really do a lot of shit around the house. I exercise, but I read books. I read books and I listen to podcasts. I'm a bit of a piece of shit. Like in terms of not doing stuff around the house, I really am horrible. I'm bad. Listen, we all have flaws, but I'm fucking bad. I'm always reading and doing podcasts. So good for podcasts. Good for YouTube and podcasts, my reading in this, not so good for my wife Madeline, who wants me to do some shit around the house. All right, on that note, good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience, peace, love, and understanding here on Tabor Talk. Okay, I'm getting better and better. I think, I hope. Okay.